In today's video, we're going to be looking at a potential Challenger Europe team that you can pick up for around £500 ahead of this upcoming season. I've chosen Challenger Europe because it's a much more reasonably priced region than Champion Europe, although this does come with an increased competition. The prices I'm going to be using are the current floor prices, which means if you were to build this exact team, you could spend a bit of time bidding and you'd probably be able to get it for a little bit cheaper. Before the video starts, I just want to thank everyone for the support on the last video. Gained almost 40 subscribers from the first video and some helpful feedback as well. If you're new to the channel, I make SoRare and football content, and a subscription to the channel would be greatly appreciated. If you enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like, and if you've got any other ideas for videos I could do, then leave them in the comments below. Let's get into making the squad. So obviously out of the £500, a lot of it's going to be on the goalkeeper, because goalkeepers are the most expensive position in the game. So I'm just gonna, this is obviously a live building as well. I've not had a look before this video to have a look who I'm gonna pick, so I'm just gonna go through some names, pick out a couple that I would consider, and then we'll decide on one specifically. Straight away I'm seeing Volkan Babakan. I actually had him earlier in the summer, but I sold him on because he was going up. I bought him for like 80 quid and he went up to like 120, but now he's 165, so that's a good option for £160. Roaf would be great as well, but he's a little bit much at 237. In terms of the goalkeeper, I probably want to be around 100 and below 150 really. Schmidt is a really good option, and so is Van Osch, because Van Osch plays basically every single game. A lot of these players you'll see have got low percentages on the games played. The price for the price for Schmidt and Van Osch are both very good. In terms of scores, obviously Schmidt has got slightly better scoring. If we look here, he's missed a few games, but he seems to get more clean sheets generally than Van Osch. I actually own Van Osch myself, so I'm looking forward to that going into the season. But I think for the purposes of this, I'm going to pick Schmidt to go in at goalkeeper for our team. In terms of defenders, we probably have more of a choice of players. We've got like the high level ones like Douglas Santos, but he's basically the whole budget by himself. Cameron Carter-Vickers is more than the whole budget. They're probably the two best from Challenger Europe that you could possibly go for. Ignacio, I think, is quite underpriced here at 300 quid, considering he's only 20 years old and he's playing every single game. That's a bit crazy. Luan Perez, he's at a new club, so you might not be sure that he's going to put up the same numbers. Rodrigo I talked about in the previous video, however 250 quid's probably again a little bit too much. Burgess is the one that I'm definitely looking at. He started the season really well with USG. If we look here, 86 and 64. Yeah, I think he could be definitely a shout, and he's only 80 quid, although if we look at his price graph, sorry, just to go back, he was like 30 quid before the season started, 40 quid, and now he's all the way up at 80 quid, so if you're okay with knowing that he might go down again, then you could pick him up. Another one that I really want to look at is Ngadu. I don't know how you pronounce that properly, but I've been looking at getting him as well. He's around 100 quid again. Before the season started, he was only 70 quid. He's started really well as well. 2 games, really solid scores. In both games, I haven't kept a clean sheet, so he's getting some really good all-around scores. Both quite expensive options. You've got Otamendi, who's around 90 quid. SoRare, obviously under 23, so he's quite a lot more expensive. Quates for 110. You got some good options here. Ospianenko, not heard of him before, but he's got some decent scores. I think who I'm going to go for is either Burgess or Ngadu, and I think USG have had a really good start of the season. They beat Rangers the other night, which is a really impressive result, and I think they are going to be in the Champions League if they win that, which gives them a bit extra utility. Obviously Ngadu started very well as well, but I think I'm going to go with Burgess for this position. Obviously we could have two defenders, so we may end up getting Ngadu as well, but 2 players from the Belgian league to start with. Let's move on to the midfielder. So defenders and midfielders are the best priced players in the whole game. When it comes to striker as well, they tend to be quite expensive, and as we know, goalkeepers are very expensive. You've got some really top end players like Tom Hay, who he's only new to the platform, but if you look at his scores, it's just like these are some unbelievable scores. His lowest score ever is 46. and he's just constantly hitting 60s and 70s and 80s, so he's a little bit too expensive. Treble, I talked about in the last video as well. Coombs, own him, very, very good player. Naboa is an interesting one because before the season, a lot of people were looking at him, but he didn't. The first few games of the season, he did get an assist in the first game, but he was on the bench for these 2 games because there were a lot of problems with his fitness. However, in the last game last weekend, he got 2 goals and just a really good score overall. So he is one who we could potentially look at. He has gone up because of that, up to £95. Coombs is definitely another one I could look at. Wendell, too expensive, and Bocage is another one who he's got solid L15, L40s. Another one who's gone up in price significantly because of his good start of the season. But these are just some really, really good scores. He's got potential for 100. He got 96 last week. And he plays in a Dynamo Zagreb team who are very, very dominant in the league. So that is a good option. You got Grujic for only 60 quid. He plays in the Swiss league, which I don't know too much about, so I'm not sure I'll be too confident picking him. Veerman obviously is £800. Haanen is a pretty good one for £50 roughly. We're getting towards some players that I'm not really too familiar on. Some good under 23 options here, a couple here. Szymanski, obviously I talked about in the last video. Nikolai Kalasinski at own. He's gone down quite a lot because his season hasn't started very well, but last season he was putting up some unbelievable numbers. Wilmar Barrios as well is another really good one. Fomin as well. I think he actually got injured in the last game, but he was really good. He's got some really good numbers as well. I think we're gonna go for Bocage maybe. Bocage, Coombs or Naboa. Obviously these 2 are quite old. Naboa's 37, which is insane. Coombs 34 as well. Bocage is only 26, so you've got a couple of years more of him, especially if he stays at Dinamo Zagreb. He's going to be a really good option. I think we're going to go for him. There's the first 3 players. We're currently at £285, so we've still got a decent amount of the budget left to go for the forward and 1 extra position. Now, the forward is maybe one of the hardest positions to choose. You've obviously got 2 or 3 really, really good players. You've got Shota, who's nearly £1,000 now. That is insane. And Tadic is just a solid scorer. Carlson as well, but he's injured. This is an interesting one, Yankshna, because I was looking at him pre-season. He was like £120, but he's been injured for the first few games of the season, missed the first 3 games. His scores are still just excellent, like really, really excellent. So he definitely could be a shout to be picked up for when he comes back from injury. It's not known when he's going to come back yet, and obviously he is 33, so that is older players tend to take longer to come back from injuries, so you never know. We've got Smolov, who started the season really, really, really well. He's at about £100 before the season, now he's at 160. He's got 2 huge scores to start the season. I think you don't really want to be buying at the top though, so probably not be picking him up. Taremi, very, very good. You've got Polos as well, who's another one I've been looking at. Kuipers, I own myself as well. First game wasn't too good, but he got a goal in the second game, and he's playing in Ghent, who I feel like are going to have a really, really good season. Dessers as well. Nuno Santos is another one who could do really, really well for Sporting if he plays every week. I do think it's going to be worth taking the hit on Yankshna. You might want to pick up someone a little bit cheaper as well as a backup until he comes back. So say someone like Dursun, who, as long as he starts, obviously I'm not speaking with too much confidence about a lot of these players, but in terms of the SO5 scores, I really think that Yankshna is someone who, Yangsha, I don't really know how to pronounce it, but he's someone who could be really, really good for this season, and I believe he's got a new picture now, which means that his cards are going to be getting minted soon. And that leaves us with £100 for the final player. If we look at the last year, just from these players, put up some decent scores, to be fair. I don't know why Schmidt's scores aren't coming up. Maybe, yeah, I suppose he hasn't played as much, but he is the number 1 now. We'll look at the last player and then we'll consider if we could make any improvements if we got any money left. So yeah, we've got about £100 left to get a defender or midfielder. I've chosen these two because they are the best value for money. You don't want to be getting 2 strikers in a team, and obviously not 2 goalkeepers. So I'll have a little look around. Coombs is an interesting one because I do own him, and he started the season really well. If we have a look here, 95 and a 78, and they didn't even win either of those games. So he's got potential to be a really good scorer. Krista Yakov, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but there's been rumours that Lovren is going to be leaving Zenit, which would give him a place next to Rodrigo in the Zenit defence, which would be really nice for him. Obviously we have Burgess already. Ngadu we could almost afford, but probably would take us a little bit over budget. You've obviously got like Hans Vanaken, who's one of the best players in the whole region. £100, interesting. Let's have a little look and see what I can get for £100. Coates again, a little bit too expensive. Really want like a solid scorer who gets around the upper 50s for every game, because you do need players like that who are always going to get you good scores. Barrios is a really good shout, I think, because he started the season excellently. I mean, this is exactly the type of player that we're looking at. Look at these. He rarely ever gets below a 40. He's almost always in the 50s or the 60s. He can hit, a good 70 plus score. So I think I was looking at his rare pre-season, and he's just keep going up and up, because I really saw him as very undervalued before the season started. He was around like 27 quid, which is really good, and now he's up at 65, which is a bit mad. I think we're going to pick him, so that's the team that we're going to have. Yeah, you got a bit extra to play with as well. Now, in terms of the captain, this is an interesting one, because obviously the best scorer here is Yanksa, but you don't know if he's going to play every game. He's 32 years old. So I would probably say I would put Bocage as the captain, because he basically plays every single game. He would have won a tier 3 last week, and that's without Yanksa playing. So if you had to pick someone else, say have a backup, then you would have been looking very pretty. I think you can't really judge off the previous season, because a lot of these players didn't play every week last season, and now you'd feel like they are going to play every week. At least the majority of them are going to play on any given game week. You expect all of them to play. So that's the team that we've picked. Hopefully going through some of these players has helped a little bit, giving you a couple of options that you could go for if you're looking at a slightly lower budget. I looked at a couple of them, and a higher budget as well. There's a few there that could have been you could pick for this position. Hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, leave a like and let me know if you want me to do another region. Maybe I can do an American version or an Asian version. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.